guys ready? You better be ready, because it's almost showtime. Come on. Let's do this. Hey, guys!
Yeah! Welcome to the One Up Weekly Live. Yeah! What's
New
going
channel.
on? We
What's
are
up?
here. It's good to be back, isn't it, Ralph? Or is it, are we back?
Yeah.
Or are
It
we
smells
here?
so fresh
right?
and new in here.
I know.
It smells like a new channel. It's crazy.
That's
It's got
right.
That
So
new
thank-
channel smell.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming over to our new channel, the One Up Weekly. This is where we're going to be living for the next every single day. We're just going to pump out videos, right? Right, that's the plan. It's not One Up Weekly, it's One Up Daily. Is that right?
It's not what. No.
Oh,
Justin's
sorry.
getting a little ahead of himself.
Okay.
But dude, we have so many things to talk about because all right. So the first things we're gonna dive right in. First of all,
Yep.
thank you for joining on the new channel. We know it's a new process, but hopefully everyone's gonna get behind it, and we'll get everyone together here on the new channel. But okay, check it out. So we've got the IGN Summer of Gaming thing that Arcade 1UP was supposed to announce at today. That got delayed. So that actually is now the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. And Arcade 1UP's going to announce their stuff on the 10th, which is actually Wednesday of next week. So don't fret. John D has already been rescheduled. We got him locked in. So we're going to do a special show next weekend, or next Wednesday.
That's
Sorry,
right.
This coming Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So it'll be on this channel. So make sure you tune in and subscribe and hit the notification and all that good stuff.
That's right. And although it's a Friday, we do have our regular scheduled time on Sunday. So that will be the next episode. So come check us out live on the One Up Weekly on Sunday. And then yet again, we're going to be live on Wednesday. So
That's right. How did I forget? We're going to have our normal Sunday show too, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. We just wanted to
Yeah.
do a special because we put out this this new channel, and we're like, we got to give it some love, right? So tonight we're going to be talking about Sega. Ralph, do you like Sega?
I love Sega.
I don't
was
know.
the
I
same-
know. Do you? let me hear that again. Do you love Sega?
I love Sega.
Me some Sega, right?
Yeah, I love
and
it.
they made a lot of announcements this week, and that's kind of got some people confused. And I really want to know Ralph's opinion on this because Ralph's a diehard Sega
Yes.
fan. How does
Yes.
Ralph feel about these announcements?
Well, I'm underwhelmed, but it's worth talking about, but I'm
Yeah.
definitely underwhelmed. There's some things where I'm just like, what the heck? Because they were talking about this big announcement. It's gonna rival the PS5 announcement. And everyone's like, oh my gosh. So when you say something like it's gonna rival this major console announcement, then it should be pretty big, right?
That's right.
Or
So-
is it really, really small?
Right. Is your announcements actually micro? So I have a test for tonight. Is the biggest announcement from Sega actually already been announced with the Arcade 1UP Sega Golden Axe? Let's find out. There's a couple things, kind of an overview, right? So we're going to be talking about the Game Gear Micro. We're going to be talking about the Fog Gaming, and we're going to be talking about the Golden Axe. These are three big Sega announcements. Of course, this one is this one from Arcade 1UP. Arcade 1UP, of course, is manufacturing these cabinets and licensing these titles, and the emulation is done by Code Mystics. This guy's got some great scan lines capabilities, and so hopefully we're going to see some announcements on this guy soon. But we were there at CES. Ralph, what did you think about the Golden Axe cabinet?
Yeah, it was a good cabinet. I liked it. The thing I was really excited about was, again, they had, the Golden Axe, they had Altered Beast, or Altered Beast isn't going to be on the production one, right?
No. Just check this out. When you look at it, it looks like it only has four. Listen, it looks like it only has
no,
four.
but I can't remember if Altered Beast is making the list.
It's on their website.
Okay, then it is. Okay. So all right. So anyways, you got
So
the
5
titles.
games. It's
You
5
got the
titles.
5 games. You got the 5 games. But the thing that I liked about it the most was that Code Mystics, obviously, you saw what they did with the Star Wars cabinet, right? They got the scan lines down. They have all those different imaging effects. The scan lines look really good.
They did.
But Code Mystics is really good at this kind of stuff. So I'm stoked around that because the games, you put them on an LCD screen, you get some good scan lines going, and it looks nice, right? It kind of tries to relive the memories of the game. The only game on this cabinet that kind of baffles me a little bit maybe is Wrestle War. Yeah, because it's a vertical game. I didn't really necessarily love the game. So if there's one maybe bad apple of the group, it's
They should have put Streets of Rage in it, but they didn't. But you know why? It's because they're going to come out with the Streets of Rage later, right? Like
Well,
that
I
one
don't
deserves its own title. No, remember last week we did the Leaks review, and that showed like a Sega cabinet. Wasn't Streets of Rage one of the titles?
It was,
and it was with Shinobi and Altered Beast, so
yeah.
at least they were considering it at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. So no, I liked the cabinet. I liked the way it looked. It looked really nice. You know, it had the light up marquee. The light up marquee at CES was a little bit weird because they had printed the wrong film for the marquee for the show. So it was like the light was having a hard time getting through, which I could tell it was just like, early days.
These weren't production manufactured. They were really prototypes. Like right here, Ralph, in the video, you're kind of showing how there was actually some differences between the different models. And it just
one had
showed that
molding and one didn't. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not really sure if they were, I don't know. Do you think John D was showing some people like, hey, this one is with, this one's without? I don't think so. It was just like
maybe like the way they came off the line or whatever for the show. Yeah.
Yeah. They were kind of putting it together really quick.
Now, here's one thing, Justin. I didn't have the picture from the website. Maybe you do. Are they keeping the things from the original Golden Axe cabinet there, on the bezel?
Let me look at
that.
Yeah,
I actually
down
really think
below. Yeah,
because that's actually really cool.
Yeah, those 4 white boxes.
Yeah, because that actually was like that on the official cabinet. So I thought that was really neat that they kind of took that level of attention for the cabinet to look more like the original one, which is neat. I mean, obviously the control panel and stuff doesn't, but
yeah. So we got to move on, right? Hyper fast. So Sega cabinet, arcade 1-up. We don't know the release date yet. Hopefully, we'll know soon. We do know that that's not what John D is coming on to talk about. Maybe we can ask him if he has a release date, but I know he has much more exciting things to talk about. But more Sega, right?
So the additional Sega thing is actually I don't know if this is a translation issue with Sega Japan and America, but they're calling it Fog Gaming. So that was this next announcement. This was kind of a weird one for me because when I initially saw it, I was like, okay, did they mean cloud? Like I didn't really understand it. So I'll give you my high level feelings.
It's like a
Justin.
Cloud that comes down, and it's foggy.
Well, then maybe that's actually kind of accurate because it kind of is that.
Yeah.
So it is. So one of the crazy things here is this is a pretty. I gotta say, like Justin, from a general technology perspective, this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
What they're saying they want to do. So keep in mind, there's some things you should know about. So in Japan, you can read it in this article, but I was curious. So in Japan, there's about 1,600 active arcades. So arcade gaming is huge. No, 16,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a large amount. Yeah. So there's a large amount of arcade facilities still in production or generally running in Japan. Now, if you compare that to the peak of like 82, 83 arcade gaming in America at that time, at the peak of it, was about 15,000. So just think that they have more now. Or at least I think that stat was like 20. It was 2016. So let's just say, even if it's a reduced amount, they're at our peak now, right? So when we were peaking. So I think that's pretty interesting. And Sega happens to have a large investment in a lot of these arcades. And some of these arcades are modern. They're running modern Sega games, right? Or modern Sega hardware. So the concept here is that basically they want to launch a cloud service,
right?
But it's like they were trying to, I guess, think of a creative way that the arcade owners could get some benefit during off hours. So they thought up this idea that, hey, could we use the CPU and GPU resources in these arcade centers to power our cloud?
Right.
That's kind of a crazy concept in a way,
right?
Because
it's interesting because imagine they were all in a single warehouse, so kind of paint a picture that most people can understand. Like they have these warehouses called data centers. It's just filled with servers. Now imagine you owned a data center and you're telling everyone, yeah, I have 16,000 servers in my data center with pretty high-end GPUs, and you can rent those, like a virtual cloud. Oh wait, except they're actually spread across. They're distributed among arcades. And, when they're not in use, these could be leveraged as, cloud gaming. So it's not a horrible idea. We were talking about it before. For it to work really well, maybe does Sega control the pipeline for the data communication? That would, I don't know, and this is all Japan too thing, right?
That's a huge thing. So this would make no sense as long because obviously I actually for my day job I actually sell infrastructure to a data center, right? So
Hmm.
data centers have big, huge data pipes that they can get out to the internet. Now, I'm assuming you wouldn't do this if you had some skinny skinny pipe going into these data centers. You'd have
Right.
to have a lot of bandwidth. So
Yeah.
my guess is that that already exists. Otherwise, this would be a non-starter. So it's kind of a cool idea, I guess. If
Yeah.
I'm one of those arcade owners and I can say, hey, I can like lease you back, whatever the cost is per CPU or GPU cycle or whatever. Like
Right.
that's kind of cool. And probably extends the longevity of the arcade, right? So
Yeah.
because
And
when
these
they're
are not
closed,
consumer
yeah,
devices, right? So it'd be a little like frowned upon if, you were utilizing something that a consumer purchased. So imagine I purchased something, put it in my house, and little did I know the manufacturers of it were utilizing it for some type of cloud computing. Most people wouldn't be cool with that. But these are arcade machines that are used commercially. So
yeah, yeah.
this is actually a pretty sweet idea.
So one of the things that I thought of, so I thought of is this made me think back to something that I used to do. Super nerdy thing.
Is
Justin,
it
you know what?
SegaNet? Are you about to say
No, 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 no.
SegaNet is back?
No. Do you
No,
know?
okay.
Do you know what? Do you know what SETI is?
Yeah. Okay.
You do?
Like the
Okay.
search for
Yeah, the
like
search for like extraterrestrial life forms.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so if I don't know if you guys know this, but there's this software package you can load on top of like
all
an
right.
x86 CPU or anything.
That's right.
And
it
it basically-
utilizes cycles on your computer, right?
Yeah, it utilizes CPU cycles when you're not using it. So like when I was totally nerded out and I first got into IT, there was a piece of hardware that I used to support. And I used to run or work in a data center. And in that data center, I would load this is so bad. I would load SETI onto because I was
man.
because it tells you how many like cycles you've gone through with SETI. And so I was like,
They give
oh,
you
man,
like
but-
stats and stuff.
yeah, and these were like high-end machines at the time. Like,
Right.
oh my god, do you know I'm gonna find ET with this machine? So I loaded
That's
it.
awesome.
So someone had mentioned to me, someone said something funny about it that I used to work with. They're like, man, do you think SETI's running on those things? But anyways, whatever. It's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone knows about SETI. The real medic for you knows about SETI. So that's funny. And he also says we're listening.
Yeah.
But, and then Alpha Tryon 92 says he thinks Zohar's from another planet. I don't know. He might be. Who knows? I might be from another planet. You guys don't
Yeah.
even know.
That's right. Yeah,
And
so
then someone
that's
else is
interesting.
shouting about
The
Japan
fog
arcades.
gaming. The question is, we hear these announcements. They're coming. These are announced in Japan, and so the other announcement is also an announcement that's in Japan, and it's got a lot of people outside of Japan a little questioned, right? Like I think,
Yeah.
I'm guessing those in Japan. I don't know. I don't know. Are those in Japan like going crazy about
Like flipping out over this? I
Yeah, maybe
know.
they are.
Yeah, I don't know. So this is a weird one for me too because I loved the Game Gear. I had a Game Gear. Super fun. There were a lot of really great games on Game Gear.
Right. Yeah.
And then, but if someone asked me, if someone said to me and Justin, I want to know what you think, and it's obviously everyone in the chat chime in here. If someone said, if Sega was going to redo a Game Gear, I would want it to be close to the original size. Obviously I wouldn't need carts anymore.
Right.
Like something that's more power efficient. I can play comfortably, but maybe it doesn't need to be the official size. That
Yeah.
would be really cool.
The Game Gear was pretty big, and mainly didn't it have like 6 batteries in it, 6 AA's or something, and it was great for back in the day. But if they could re-release it and have it be smaller, but not micro, like and people would buy it, right? Like I think everybody's waiting, like, okay, you're gonna do the micro, but when are you gonna do the mini? Right? Like, give us like what size screen would be appropriate? Do you need like is it like a 3-inch screen, a 4-inch screen? Like
I don't know, not a 1.7 inch screen. I'll tell you that. That sounds, or no, that's 1.15 inch screen. I was giving it a little bit more. It's 1.15 inches diagonally. So that's a small screen. Actually, Mike had a funny comment. He said Game Gear for infants. Yeah, like seriously, it would actually be pretty comfortable for an infant to play, probably.
yeah, I saw this tweet that actually was really really interesting. I thought it was insightful. They were comparing the NES Classic, Super Nintendo Classic, Neo Geo, PlayStation, Sega Genesis Mini, the TurboGrafx 16 Mini, and the Game Gear Micro, and they were basically saying like, what about cost per title? and it's like the NES Classic, $2 per title. The Super Nintendo, $3.81. Neo Geo, $2.75. The PlayStation Classic, $5 per game. Sega Genesis Mini, $1.90. TurboGrafx 16, $1.75 per game.
Oh, these are
but the
interesting
Game
stats.
Gear Micro, $12.50 per game. Like that's so much more expensive, right?
I know. And look, dude, look at this for a minute though. When you look at the original, actually, that's not even the original. That's not. So when you look at it though, right? Like this blown up picture, like, oh, that doesn't look like a bad size.
Because proportionally, it's a good size, right? Like that looks like you can't really tell how small it really is, but it's proportionate. I mean, the buttons are like bigger than they would be, right? But
yeah, it's just
if
it's
it
tough
was
for me.
like
There's a
this
couple-
big,
yeah.
you know, and it would be awesome. But
I mean, there's a couple things that I really like about it, like being able to play Outrun as a handheld is kind of fun. I mean, you got some good titles on here. They did Sonic the Hedgehog, they threw in, but the thing is, I think the titles are spread across, so it's like forcing you to buy. Because like Gunstar Heroes is an awesome game. People love that. Anybody that's like a Sega enthusiast loves Gunstar Heroes. But it's on the, I think it's on the yellow, or maybe it's on the purple one. I think it's on the purple one.
yeah,
So you got the purple one has that game, and then the yellow one has the other thing too that people have been pointing out is some of them have a large amount of these like RPG games, and it's like, dude, RPG and text is going to be a nightmare. But that's going to suck.
So again, if this is released in the US, maybe it'll have different titles, and so maybe they won't
maybe this
do
isn't
the
even
RPGs
for the US. Maybe this is not even, because maybe it won't even come to the US and it'll be strictly Japan, and they'll think about redoing it for the US.
I think the US is demanding for something. There's a lot of talk about it. So if Sega's listening, then what they're hearing is, oh, they would flip out if it was a little bit bigger and had more games on it. In fact, you could sell it for $100, right? Would you buy for $100, one that has like 30 games and the screen is much bigger?
Yeah.
Like you would totally get it.
So some of the bummer, I agree with you. So some of the bummer specs on it is, all right, it takes the 2 AAA batteries, and they're saying about a 3-hour battery life. So that's about what the original was on I think 4 AA batteries. So like the battery life is not even better than the original, which is kind of weird. And then if you don't have batteries in it, there's no built-in battery, so you have to plug it into like a micro USB. That's kind of a shitty. Ooh, it's kind of a crappy thing too, because I mean, to have to play it connected to something, that was like my biggest complaint about the Neo Geo Mini. It was like, why would they not have put a battery in that thing? Like, why no battery in the Neo Geo Mini? It makes no sense. You can mod it. There's plenty of mods out there to show you how to do it. I just thought that was like a really big loss. I don't know. It just seems weird. And he said, Justin, you could use, Mike says you could use one of these as your guitar pick. You probably could. It's pretty small.
It is pretty small. I think it's for collectors. If people want to import it, or if it does come to the States as is, you could pick them up. It would be something that's kind of cool to play. I don't think you would play it seriously, of course.
Be a novelty thing, man.
A novelty, and probably put it on a shelf. And it needs to come with like a stand or something. Like in the aftermarket, someone could make some pretty good money actually just building. Maybe someone comes out like a 3D print holder, so you can kind of put it, on a shelf and just kind of have it up, and maybe that'd look nice.
Yeah, so I will say if you play it for longer than 3 hours, you get hand cramps. I mean, honestly, the funny thing is, I was playing with my Switch Lite last night. I was playing that game, The Takeover. So I don't know if you guys saw it on the Retro Ralph channel. I was streaming The Takeover. It's a really cool game, kind of very reminiscent of Streets of Rage. And Yuzo Koshiro, who we all wanted to do the music on Streets of Rage 4, which was involved, wrote music for this game too. So and since it's Sega, I figured I'd talk about it. But if you're into Streets of Rage 4 and you love Sega, go check out The Takeover, because it's definitely a cool game, and it has Yuzo Koshiro's music, so it's pretty neat. But yeah, no, I don't know, man. This one is not something I'm excited about. The fog gaming thing could be cool, but I'm guessing because that's all located in Japan, that's not going to really be something that's available to us in the US, wouldn't you say?
Well, at least not right now. We'll see if they come out with another announcement, but I'm sure there's going to be people that do pick it up anyway. They'll buy it and get it imported, and yeah, we'll see. Now, there was something else about Sega that you called me this week about, and you were super excited about it. It had had nothing to do with any of these announcements, but there's like another set of people that are trying to really make Sega great again.
So while
Sega's
I talk about it,
but
Do you think that while I talk about it for a second, you could pull that up? Because that's a cool thing to pull up. So if you don't mind pulling that up,
Sure.
that'd be cool. Yeah, so Justin will pull that up while I'm talking about it. So basically, there was, and I don't know the development company that did it or the group of individuals that did it. I think it's actually a large group of developers, but they developed something called the Sega Triple Bypass, which is actually allows you to get like the best, cleanest version of video and audio out of any model Sega Genesis, whether it be the Model 1, the Model 2, and the Model 3. It's really cool. So I have done things to my Genesis where I run like a RGB SCART output and things like that. So I've played with that a little bit, but this is like over the top version of that. It'll get it looking the best it could possibly get. Obviously, you need to have a little bit of solder skills and things like that to do this. I don't know, Justin, what would you say the level of effort is you're going to end up doing? By the way, I'm sending it all to Justin so he can do it. But what's the level of effort on this? Like, if I'm a novice, could I pull this off, or is this like more of a expert type of thing?
I don't know. I mean, it's if you don't have experience soldering, you probably don't want to start with this is your first time ever soldering something. I haven't done the mod for this, but I've done other RGB mods that are very similar. So I can talk a little bit about it. The guy, DB Electronics, his name is Renee. He actually is you picked up one of his stuff. The turbo, what's it called? The booster? Do you remember you picked that up?
Oh yeah, it was for the TurboGrafx 16. Yes,
yeah, so
sits
same
on the
guy.
back of the TurboGrafx 16.
He's a guy in Canada, and he had a website for a while. I think he took the website down, but he's been around in the gaming industry for a while building products. So he's very reputable. This is an open source project, actually. He built the entire circuits and logic. Let's describe what it's for, right? So the problem with the Sega Genesis, it has a couple different models.
You got to dumb it down, though, Justin.
I'm going to dumb it down.
I'm a simpleton. I need it simple. Don't be getting all crazy.
The original Sega Genesis has some quality issues. And so when you try, and it's really shown when you try to connect it to an LCD, you can actually still see it when you got it plugged into a CRT, but it has what's called jail bars. So you'll basically see these lines. It's interference, right? You'll see interference in the video, but you'll also hear interference. Some of the circuits inside the Sega wasn't done the best quality they could have been done. There's a little bit of noise. So the triple bypass is to bypass some of those circuits that are introducing that noise and running it through some circuits to put out the best analog quality you can out of Sega. And I met the guy that helped kind of tweak the audio side. And they did some amazing work where they're doing audio samples, where they basically
I
built
heard
this.
the audio samples. They sound better than the Model 1, which was the best it could sound. So it actually sounds better than the original.
Yeah, this guy in Mexico, he built this piece of software. I think it's called the MD4A. And what it does is it does an analog sampling of a device, right? And you can take a sample of a perfectly tuned Sega, right?
Okay.
And it will analyze all of a particular test, audio test. It'll analyze all the peaks and valleys of that wave file. And if you compare that to your Sega that you have, it'll show you how off you are. You know, like how it's not finely tuned, and it could be used to detect if you have bad capacitors in your circuits and things like that. It will tell you, like, you know, essentially this is why you have an issue.
Okay.
So they use that technology. In fact, the Mister, I believe, is part of that project as well. They took a perfectly finely tuned Sega Genesis and used that as their source audio sample. And then when they make the core, the audio core, they're trying to match the audio output to what the MD4A says is like an accurate reproduction of the audio. And if it's off in any sort of way, it'll be like, whoa, it's not a match, right? But they also use...
It's doing that in real time?
Yeah, well, you just do 2 audio recordings and you give it to the software and it'll do the analysis.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool. But
someone else said it's too complicated. Keep it simple. You gotta hurry up. I'm challenging you 60 more seconds.
In this triple bypass version 2, it comes with a lot of enhancements because they did have a beta version that a lot of people were playing with. But the V2 comes with a lot of research from the community to be able to get the Sega quality really high end. So what's Ralph going to do
for
with
me,
it?
right? You're gonna send it to me, and you're gonna make it awesome.
That's right. Ralph's gonna send me his Sega Genesis. I think yours is the you want to do is the version
I'm
2,
gonna
version
send
1,
you
right?
2 of mine. I'm gonna send you my Model 1
Right.
and my Model 2, and because I'm a good friend,
Right.
for your services, you get to keep my Model 2.
That's
I'm
it,
not
that's-
giving, but there's kind of a little bit of a jerk mode in there because I'm not giving you the better of the 2 Segas.
It's okay.
but it's
okay.
still okay.
That's good payment for it, right? So the end result is going to be this. Ralph is going to have a model Sega 1 that's been enhanced. You know, it has it's been repaired, maybe you could say. He will then, his output of his Sega he'll use a SCART cable and plug that into, what are you going to use? Maybe like a RetroTink?
So I used to be all about the OSSC until I think you told me about the RetroTink. I didn't really know a lot about the RetroTink. The RetroTink sort of does what the OSSC does, but in a really simple way. Like there's not a lot of options on it. The OSSC you can tweak to all hell. So if you view yourself as like a hardcore video guy, video nerd, oh my gosh, you can geek out to all ends with the OSSC. But the RetroTink is just simple, and that's what I like about it. It just has a couple options, and I don't need all that other stuff.
Right. So
yeah, I'll hook it up to a RetroTink.
The RetroTink will input that European standard, the SCART, and it's going to give you HDMI on the other side. And so what it's doing is it's managing all of the upscaling for you instead of your television. So it's made by a guy that really knows what he's doing, and so it's lag free, and then it has scanline mode. In fact, so you could on a digital screen introduce scan lines with the RetroTink, and it looks beautiful. It looks great.
Yeah. So for any of you guys that haven't seen these products, these are really cool. You can just I'll put a link in the description, or we'll put a link in the description to it. But RetroTink is really great. It's a great product. Even if you have like the composite version or the version that does component, it also does composite too. So if you have like older composite stuff, it's not going to be the best signal, but it will clean it up, make it look nice, line double it for you. It'll look pretty good. Someone was mentioning the FrameMeister. To my knowledge, the last time I heard FrameMeister, they're not developing it anymore. So it's kind of like become a dead platform. I thought from that point, I thought it was really cool. But I think it's kind of dead at this point. Like
that's right. I have a
FrameMeister,
FrameMeister, a RetroTink, and the OSSC. And the FrameMeister was the most expensive. They're like $400, and they do introduce lag. It's low amount of lag, but it does introduce it. One of the nice things is about it, you throw almost everything at it, and it will work. It may not work great, but it's very compatible. But I'm pretty sure the RetroTink just basically replaces. I mean, see, here's the thing with RetroTink, it's $100, and it's plug and play.
The other thing. OSSC is like, the last time I checked, I think the last one I bought was close to $150. The other thing too, I have firmware updated my RetroTink, and I was not scared. The OSSC, I've had people, I think it was Mad Little Pixel that had this problem where he like put in a power supply that was different from the production one, and it like burnt out the whole thing. Like
I'm on my
like,
second OSSC.
Oh, okay, yeah. So far so good on the RetroTink.
It's not. I met the developer of the OSSC. Awesome guy. Not his fault that mine went out. The problem is I plugged in the wrong adapter to it, and it's like, poof, dead. You know. So the power supply that I put into it was the wrong one. So after that, I started labeling my power supplies. I'm like, this is for the FrameMeister, and this is for the OSSC.
The cool thing is do you ever, when you put the RetroTink in, you take your micro USB, you put it in, and you're good. Like you're good. It's powered by micro USB. I've even powered the RetroTink from like a battery, one of those like separate battery units. You know,
really?
I happen to have like didn't have plugs around. I'm like, damn it! I was like, and I didn't want to jumble the stuff, and the power pack was right there, and I plugged it in, and it worked fine. So like there's a lot of cool things about that. But anyways, I didn't realize we'd get into this topic, but these are fun because anything to make the retro gaming experience better. And we both, Justin and I, realized that you could go and buy a Sega Genesis Mini. But some people love the original hardware. I love the original hardware. I'm just a sucker for the whole experience.
If we go through it, it's like, well, you could do a Sega Genesis, but you also have a Mega SG. So the Mega
we didn't
SG,
even talk about that. The Mega SG is awesome, right? I mean, you have a Mega SG too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome, right? I mean, the Mega SG is amazing.
Yeah, this is a Sega episode, so let's talk about it, right? So I'll pull up a thing. So the Mega SG is made by a company called Analog, right? And the developer behind that is Kevin Horton. So he's actually big into arcade cores and building cores for emulations for FPGA. That's exactly what all of Analog's products are since the Analog NT Mini. So where they started was they actually took a device and they started pulling out parts from an original Nintendo to kind of recreate a Nintendo with a new PCB with HDMI output. Not very many of those sold. I think it was their early project, but they were like $800, right? And then they came out with the Analog NT Mini, which was $500, still really expensive. But then they came out with the Super NT, which is only like $200, and then they came out with the Mega SG, which is about $200. So this takes cartridges. We'll play it's like 99.9% compatibility, right?
Yeah, I haven't had a problem with any carts, even like some crazy China, repros that I've put in it. It's played them fine.
That's
So
right.
I haven't had
There's firmware that you can get that's kind of aftermarket that allows you to sideload games in it. So you can throw the ROMs right on the side and it can play those games. And the recreation is kind of like that Mister level that we've talked about before on the channel, where you're recreating the hardware circuits that the original unit had. And so if you're kind of just obviously software emulation is probably where you want to start. If you've never really got into emulation, software emulation is where you want to start with, because you can download stuff. And we on this channel we talk a lot about Arcade 1-Up, so a lot of people are modding Arcade 1-Up with a Pi. If this is a hobby for you, like it is for Ralph and I, in the sense that we love learning about everything about the technology behind retro gaming, not only playing the games but also learning, this is kind of a gateway into another area.
I will say this. It was, the comment was put in the chat. It is really expensive, but if you're like a big Sega fan, you have a bunch of carts because you're a collector too.
Right.
This is something that you're just gonna want to have. I mean, I know it's expensive, but if you can afford to buy it, it is amazing. It's amazing.
I want to talk about. I was thinking about that recently. There's a lot of people that are saying, like, something like this isn't expensive, but technically an Arcade 1-Up cabinet is more expensive than this.
Yes, that's true.
And so just to put that in perspective, I was starting to think like, I could never own a full-size pinball machine. Well, I could get a full-size pinball machine for a couple $1,000, and I would have that money as an example, not to diss Arcade 1-Up, but as an example, if I never did buy all the Arcade 1-Up cabinets that I did buy, I would have that money. Just as an example, because I don't know, it's just, maybe it's all about saving money, but there are some people out there that have like, 5, 10 Arcade 1-Up cabinets and they got them all for $50.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
You bring up a good point. So I'll admit that in the beginning, when Arcade 1-Up only had certain titles, I was buying titles because I wanted them to look cool next to each other. Like, there were titles I was buying that I was not actually interested in playing. So it was like, I wanted Street Fighter, but I didn't really care about Rampage, although I loved Rampage as a kid. Rampage for me as an adult is not the same experience. So it's like, that was kind of more of a cabinet to look cool against the other cabinet. Yeah. But, and then I might have bought 2 or 3 more that would fall into that bottom because they were cool category. Now, had I not spent that money and just bought the one that I really liked, I could have maybe bought a full-size arcade that I really liked. You know what I mean? So like sometimes I think a lot of people actually fall into that category where you got really excited and you wanted them all bunched up, but you didn't, you know what I mean? You didn't really, you got out of hand really quick. And now you're like, oh man, I want the NBA Jam, but I wish I didn't buy these 3 because those aren't the ones I really wanted. So it's
real. We've seen some people talk about that, and
but this
it's
is like
really
any hobby though, Justin, right? It's any hobby you get into. You might be like, oh man, I bought these titles, but really I didn't know that game was coming out. Now I don't have the money for that. It's just
we
like
said
anything
this
else.
Way early in the channels that we had. It was like one of Arcade 1-Up's biggest problem is space, right? Like, and that's real, right? It's a
now
real
before
problem.
we do final thoughts, we don't know what they're going to do in the future, right? This announcement I think is going to be just a level set from, and I don't know this for fact, but I'm just using based on the conversations I've had with Arcade 1-Up. I think that what we're going to have on Wednesday is a single announcement that will be a series of announcements. So I don't think you're going to hear, and they may change that. They may announce a couple things, but what I gather right now is it's one thing, and then there was a whole bunch of stuff from E3 that they're going to like trickle out over the next, like, let's call it 30 to 60 days, just to kind of keep it. And maybe they'll do it sooner. Maybe it's more 30 days. But I don't think the thing on Wednesday is like a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't think it's, unfortunately, I know Zohar wants it to be a pro cab. I don't think it's that. I think that's just something they've been talking about that they may eventually do at some point.
Yeah,
I think it's more
think
in like early development.
if they do a pro cab, that'll be like
What
a limited.
you do?
It would be like a limited edition, and they don't really announce their limited editions because why would they?
Yeah.
They're not getting a retailer to pick them up. Like it's kind of just
Yeah.
like on their website, and that's it. Maybe they tweet about it. That's about it.
Oh wait, what do you say? I want pinball. Wish I had the space. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I will say I came up with something. I gotta say this one more thing. So everyone was all excited. Well, we talked about this sling spade. I'm not. We could do a whole entire. With the last episode, we were talking a lot about what we thought it would be. So I guess at this point we've kind of put it all out there, and we'll have to see what the announcement is on Wednesday. But there's one thing I was kind of thinking about. So I'm already thinking about how could I potentially mod the arcade 1-up pinball machine, and I came up with a really cool way to do it.
Yep.
That would be easy for a lot of people. So I'm all about trying to create mods that are really cool and out there and like crazy. But I was thinking about, could I budget mod this? And I have a really cool idea that we'll talk about. We'll actually talk about it on Sunday, right? Because we're going to talk about pinball.
That's
so
right.
On Sunday, we'll talk about that because I have a cool idea that you could do a cheaper pinball mod. But we got to do final thoughts time.
Hey guys, you know what time it is? It's
Hey
final
guys.
It's final
It's
thoughts
final
time.
thoughts time. What did we learn today, Justin? We learned a couple things. The first thing we learned is that Sega's announcement kind of bummed us out in a big way. Not a big way, a micro way. We learned that size does actually matter because no one wants to play a Game Gear for an infant. We also learned that maybe there might be a translation between cloud and fog that we don't understand, but that's okay too. And I don't think that thing is going to have anything to do with us here in America, but it is Sega related. So of course I got really excited and then super bummed out all at the same time. We also learned that we scripted this show about 15 minutes before we aired it. So we're kind of good on our heels sometimes, I hope. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. All right.
That's right, guys. Thank you for joining us for the
Yes, thank
1-Up
you.
Weekly. We did a little
inaugural episode. Yeah, on this episode. On this channel, yeah.
That's right. So I think that's all we have for today, right, Ralph?
That's it.
So
Closing time? Yeah. No closing
Yeah.
time? Mike was requesting something. He was requesting something.
closing time. One last call for alcohol. So finish your whiskey, Ralph. Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You know, we do the lyrics wrong. So gather up your jackets, move it to the exits. I hope you have found a friend, with Zohar. Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some
of the beginnings. And I don't want to
Thank you
leave,
very
Justin. I don't
much.
want to leave. I don't want to leave. It's so new. It smells so good. We'll be back on Sunday.
That's right. And we'll see you on
The next one. See you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.